And good afternoon, producer Susan. How are you doing today?
A little bit cooler than last week.
Good. And
I heard you
today's
got some pretty horrible rains in Jersey this over
we
the
did
holiday
blew over
weekend.
trees, collapsed the roof of BJ's wholesale
I
club,
saw that on the news. Yeah.
and a lot of flooding, a lot of cars. Watched one picture of a flood. They had the rain rushing down the street. There was a car parked, and the rain was coming down the street from behind the car. So the water was going through the car and then coming out through the grill through the front of the car like
Oh,
a fire.
geez.
It was squirting out the grill of the car from
Uh,
from coming
so
being
did
fed.
you guys have fireworks though? Because the rain,
Yeah, we
ours
had
got
fireworks. Yeah,
delayed.
we were in my neighborhood. We did. We had fireworks. We had them at both Friday night and Saturday night, so we were okay. What'd you do on the 4th of July?
Well, we had the big storms that you had, but our fireworks got delayed an hour.
Hmm.
So they went off at 10 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. Here's a fun fact for you. The guy who invented the synchronization of fireworks to music actually lives in our town
Really?
and
Okay.
sponsors our fireworks. So we have one of the best fireworks. Ours rivals New York City and DC is one of the top 10 in the country.
Wow. And speaking of inventions, you heard that the guy who invented the heat index died last week at age 92? Yeah, and he said before he died he felt like it was 103. You heard that, I know you did. Okay. All right, you want to hear what we're going to try to squeeze in today?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
All right, well today's July the 7th. It's 3 days after Independence Day. And our quote of the week this week is on the issue of illegal aliens by one of the most prominent political figures of this century and a woman's reaction to who said it. It's interesting. A woman says she quotes a politician on the topic, and she asks this woman who said it, and she guesses wrong. And when she's told who said it, she says, I don't want to do this interview anymore. All right. In our Stupidest Thing I've Heard All Week segment, we'll tell you which governor thinks you can fire a semi-automatic rifle 60 times in a second. And if you know anything about a semi-automatic rifle, that means you have to pull the trigger once for every shot. Do you think you can pull a trigger 60 times in a second?
Maybe at best 10 times in one
Yeah.
second. Best.
Well, and this guy's a governor who signs legislation, and we'll play this clip of him claiming that you can fire a semi-automatic rifle 60 times in 1 second. We'll share with you some statistics on the aging of the U.S. population and what that means for the future of Social Security.
Mm.
We'll tell you how much the price of stamps went up last week and why it won't be enough to keep the post office from losing money. We'll tell you how the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Division of the U.S. Treasury, has gone from trying to infringe on the Second Amendment rights of U.S. citizens to helping protect those rights. It's a 180-degree reversal from how they were under Biden to how they are now. And a follow up to our story about heat related deaths. And you can remember last week we talked about heat related deaths in the UK and they were making people rip
Yeah.
out air conditioning.
Yeah.
Well, we'll tell you how many heat related deaths that France experienced in just 1 week last month and how many people are dying from heat related causes in Europe each year. And the figures are absolutely shocking. We'll tell you why the price of cell phones, iPads, and computers are rising rapidly and
Hmm.
why new AI data centers are partially to blame.
Hmm.
We'll play a clip from Bill Maher explaining why the platform of Democrats, Socialists of America candidates will ultimately result in disaster if they are successful in achieving their goals. And our taxpayer relief shot this week is from Phoenix, where a customer in a Walgreens shoots and kills an armed robber. Can you imagine you're in Walgreens, mind your own business? Armed robber comes in with a gun, jumps over the pharmacy counter, holds the pharmacist at gunpoint, and says, "Give me all your OxyContin."
Yeah,
Well,
that's actually unfortunately pretty common, robberies of pharmacies for
right.
Oxy.
Well, unfortunately for this robber, unfortunately for the customers, there was a customer there with a concealed weapon carry permit, and
Yeah.
that robber wound up dead right there. All right. So I'm going to play this clip, and the clip you're going to hear this reporter quote. Here's the quote. She says, "The presence of so many illegal aliens makes a mockery of all those who are going through the process of immigrating legally." And she asks this woman, "Do you know who said it?" And you know, I had that. Why did it now suddenly disappear? Huh. All my clips disappeared, but I can bring this one up. Hang on, I know exactly where it is. Bring it right here. Forgive me, folks, this is live radio. Well, it's going to be a podcast when you hear it, but here we go.
Blame it on the heat.
Here we go. I got to start it over because I didn't have the.
Going through the
Here we
process
go.
of immigrating. The presence of so many illegal immigrants makes a mockery of all of those who are going through the process of immigrating legally. I think it's bullshit. Do you disagree with that? I disagree. The presence of so many
So hang on.
illegal immigrants makes a mockery and makes a mockery of all of those who are going.
So she asks this woman, "What do you think of that?" And the woman says, "I think it's bullshit." All right. And then she says, who do you think said that? And listen to what she says.
Going through the process of immigrating legally. I think it's bullshit. Do you disagree with that? I disagree with that. Do you know who said that? Republican. Obama from 2010. Do you think that I want to participate any further? Okay.
No, it wasn't Republican. It was President Barack Obama in 2010. And she says, I don't think I want to participate in this interview anymore. I thought that was funny as hell, don't you?
Yeah, and sorry, I heard a deer just walk through my backyard, and the
Okay.
dog went ballistic.
All right. All right. Um, Now, so let's go on to the stupidest thing I've ever heard all week. Here is the governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, who, by the way, he's a millionaire, billionaire. He's part of the, I think is it the Hyatt hotel family? He's one of those
Is it?
hotel.
Oh, I thought it was Marriott. Maybe
No, no,
maybe it
no,
is.
no. I think it's Hyatt. I think it's
Is it
Hyatt.
Hyatt?
And here he is explaining why they've banned AR-15s in his state. And here we go. Hang on.
To people to go to a 4th of July parade and be safe and not have 48 people shot in with more than 60 bullets per second um, issued by a weapon that shouldn't be available to the public. We can stand for the Second Amendment and allow people to have weapons to defend themselves. They don't need a weapon that can fire that many bullets in a single second. I hope it.
Now, again, he's talking about an AR-15, which is a semi-automatic rifle, and you pull the trigger once, you get one bullet. You don't hold the trigger. Machine guns, you hold the trigger back and it keeps
Yeah.
on shooting. AR-15s don't do that. You pull the trigger once, you get one bullet. And he's trying to tell people that AR-15s can fire 60 rounds in a second. By the way, most
Which you
machine
can't.
guns only fire about 900 rounds in a minute, which only works out to about, what, 20, 30 rounds a second. So he's just now this guy. So the question is, this guy's the governor of the state. He signed the legislation to ban the guns. Is he knowingly lying, or is he just a clueless idiot who has no idea what he's talking about? What do you think? Which one of those two? And when you're the governor of the state, which is worse, to be a knowing liar or a clueless idiot who doesn't know what you're talking about?
I mean, you're supposed to have advisors who can, fact checkers on your staff who should fact check this stuff for you.
But he didn't, did he? No.
No.
So either he's a knowing liar or he's a clueless idiot. So maybe he believes that, in which case, shame on you, governor. All right. So you want to talk about
He ran for president, didn't he, in the last election?
he was in the primary, but he never made it. He dropped
Yeah.
out or he dropped out early. All right. Um, all right, let's talk about why, we talked about Social Security being in trouble and it's going to run out of money by the end of 2032, which is only 6 years away. And by the way, do you remember what happens if it runs out of money in Q4 of how much people would get if they don't fix it by then?
They're not going to get anything if there's no money.
Well, no, there would be cash coming in, but there would only be enough cash coming in to pay out promised benefits at the rate of 78 cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
So if they don't fix it, you'd still get a check, but you'd only get 78% of what you were getting or what you were promised. All right. So here's kind of what's scary, and I saw this morning. So this is the change in the U.S. population by age group in just in the last 5 years, from 2020 to 2025. Under 18, that group has shrunk by 2.4%,
Yep.
which means that more young people are not having kids. Not surprising. And we see it in the school system, right?
Yeah.
Cities are closing down schools because the elementary and high school populations are shrinking. So I wasn't surprised that the under 18 group has shrunk by 2.4%. By the way, that's despite a continuing increase in the total population of the United States, a lot of which, by the way, has been fueled by immigration. Now, 18 to 24 in 5 years has grown by 3.2%. It's been growing at 0.8% a year. 25 to 44. What group would that be? Gen Z? What group is that? 20
Uh,
Gen X?
Y.
Gen
Wait, to 44, that'd be Y, I think.
Okay, Gen Y in 5 years, the number of
That's the
people
millennial.
in millennials that's grown by 5.7%, grown by
Mhm.
almost 1% a year. Now here's an interesting stat. 45 to 64, which group would that be?
That's the Xers. That's me.
Gen X. That group has shrunk by 3.2%.
That's
But
interesting.
but here's the stunning one. 65 and older. You want to guess how much in 5 years the population, the number of people in 65 and older has grown in just 5 years?
So that's you. That's the boomers. I feel like there's a very significant increase, especially because your generation is living longer.
Right. The advances in medicine, and whatnot. You want to take a guess, and of course, and this is the group that's collecting Social Security. You want to take a guess at how much growth that
I'm
65
gonna
and
say
older?
they've increased by 5%.
16.2%.
Wow. Yeah.
16.2%.
And these are people who are all either currently collecting Social Security or about to collect Social Security in the next year or two.
Right. And they're living longer. But when Social
Mhm.
Security first was enacted in 1935, you had to be 65 to start collecting, but the average life expectancy was only 66. So you would live
Yeah.
1 year on average. Half the people in the program never got to collect. Well,
Mhm.
that's why, by the way, in 1950 we had 15 working people for every one beneficiary.
Mhm.
Today it's 2.6 working people for every one beneficiary, and it keeps getting worse. I mean, the average life expectancy today is 78. It's even longer for women, by the way, but on
Mhm.
average
Yeah.
it's 78. But that's why, without changes, that Social Security is going to. Well, let me back up. Right now, the Social Security has a $2.5 trillion trust fund. But every year they're taking in less money in payroll contributions. And
Mhm.
by the way, interest. That 2.5 trillion is invested in US Treasury bonds. And every year they're collecting about $62 billion in earned interest on those Treasury bonds. But despite the payroll contributions from both the employee and the employer and the earned interest, they're still paying out hundreds of billions more than they're taking in, which means they're dipping into that 2.5 trillion trust fund. But of course, as you dip into the trust fund, the amount of principal earning interest shrinks, which means the amount of interest you earn shrinks. And that's why the trustees of the fund are saying, hey, in 6 years, every penny of that 2.5 trillion is going to be gone because we're using it to cover the shortfall. And without changes, which could include, raising the age to collect full. By the way, today you can collect as early as 65, but if you want to get 100% of your benefits, you have to wait till age 67. One of the things they could do is bump that up to age 68, or they could increase the contribution rate. Right now, you pay out of your paycheck, you pay 7.65%, and your employer pays 7.65. But of that 7.65, almost 1.5% goes to Medicare, 6.2% goes into Social Security. So it's 6.2 from you and 6.2 from your employer, or a total of 12.4. If you're going to need to either bump that amount up to maybe 8% instead of 6.2%, or they're going to need to increase the age for full benefits, or both. But
Mhm.
again, and by the way, and here's a sad thing: the longer Congress waits, the more painful the correction is going to have to be. Had Congress, I think we talked a couple of weeks ago, that Congress hasn't bumped the contribution rate since 1990. They used to bump
Yeah.
it every 2 years,
And
right?
I think your quote of the week, I believe, was last week about staying on the longer you stay on the wrong train, the more expensive it is for you to get home.
Get home. Well, they used to bump it every 2 to 3 years, 0.5%, 1%, and all of a sudden, 1990, they stopped bumping it. It's been stuck at 6.2% for
Mhm.
36 years. Had
So
they
they should
bumped,
have had, 10, 11, 12 increases since then.
yeah, had they bumped it at, 0.5% in 1995, another 0.5% in 2000, we wouldn't be where we are today. But Congress has been kicking the can down the road. And with a 16% growth in the population of those 65 and older, it's no wonder that the trustees are ringing the bell saying, "Hey, we're going to run out of money in 6 years. Do something. Do something." All
Mhm.
right. So let's move on to the other thing that has been kicking the can down the road. You probably don't use a lot of stamps, do you?
No, not really.
Well, on July 1, which was last Wednesday, I think, the price of a first class stamp increased by 4 cents from 78 cents to 82 cents. But let me tell you, have you heard the phrase a fart in a gale of wind? I think
Yeah.
I've used that here in the past, haven't I?
Yep.
Well, last year, according to their own report to Congress, the post office lost $9 billion delivering mail and packages. Now, if you're not good at math, that works out to a loss of $24 million per day. Now, if you had a business that was losing 24 million per day, wouldn't you try to fix it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So let me tell you what that 4 cent increase, how much of a dent that 4 cent increase is going to take in that $9 billion. Assuming the volume of first class mail does not continue to decline, which by the way, it's been declining every year, that extra 4 cents, which is 5.1% increase, would increase the post office revenues by just 1.24 billion annually, and that's assuming that the decline in first class mail doesn't decline. So you're trying to tackle a $9 billion shortfall with
Mhm.
a 1.24 best case 1.24 increase in revenue, and that doesn't include the increase in wages and fuel costs on your trucks. By the way,
Yeah. And most of your bills these days, you don't even get bills in the mail anymore because they come electronically for a lot
yep,
of
and I,
people.
I pay almost all my bills online. I get a notice. I pay them online. I do direct debit out of my checking account.
Hmm.
I think I bought a roll of stamps in last December. I'm still on that same roll. And by the
Yeah,
way,
I buy a book, not a book. Oh yeah, I guess it's a book, is what they call a book, and I keep it in my wallet for
yeah,
those rare
well,
occasions when I need it.
I buy a roll of 100. I bought a roll of 100 in December. Still have them. Anyway,
I think there's only 20 on a book, and I keep it in my wallet, and I've had the same book in
okay,
my wallet for a year now.
all right. So by the way, so we talked about the 5% decline in letter volume. Parcel post volume is down even more dramatically with a 9.4% decline in package volume just from 2024 to 2025. They went from delivering 7.2 billion packages down to 6.8 billion packages. So what this amounts to, by the way, is the equivalent of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. No amount of price increase in stamps is going to change this.
Yeah.
So the question is, how long is Congress going to keep funding this sinking ship? Now, there's a lot
Because
of things out
I
there
don't
that
know that a lot of people realize that although the post office is under the purview of the federal government, it is actually operated as an independent business.
it is the U.S. Post Office is its own corporation, and unlike the federal government, the U.S. Post Office could indeed declare bankruptcy.
Mhm.
It could indeed declare bankruptcy. But there's a lot of things government could do, starting with, well, eliminating Saturday delivery. I think they should go to 3 days a week for residential mail. Some customers would get Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Others would get Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
Mhm.
And you would always have the option, if you had some urgent letter you needed on the off day, you'd have the option of going to the post office and picking up. But quite frankly, I can't think of a single piece of mail I've gotten in the last year that couldn't have waited another day. Have
I
you
mean,
gotten?
I live in a town where we don't have mail service at all. And everybody's like, "Oh, don't you hate having to go to the post office?" I said, "No, I having a post office box." I said, "No, I actually like it because I know that my mail is safe. Nobody's going to be stealing mail out of my mailbox. If I go on vacation, my mail is safe in my mailbox." And going to the post office in our little town is like going to the community center.
Sure.
It's an event.
And how many times a week do you go to pick up your mail?
Twice. I go
Yeah.
twice a week.
Yeah, and you're fine with twice a week, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, by the way, the other thing, when I was, a teenager, I used to work summers at my grandparents' ranch in upstate New York, and our local post office was the general store.
Yeah.
It dumped, you'd go in there, and they sell shotgun shells and bait and boots and and whatever. But you want to, yeah. But if you wanted, they had a window over there, and the same gal that sold you the shotgun shells would go over and she would, weigh your package and sell you stamps and you could pick up your mails. So I don't know why we need dedicated post office. I mean, if it worked 50 years ago, why wouldn't it work
Yeah.
today?
I mean, we do have a dedicated post office and there it's a busy little post office, but it's everybody enjoys our little post office and taking
Right.
their, it's 2 blocks for me to walk. It's a nice stroll to walk the dog. Everybody walks their dog there.
Sure.
There's
But why
dedicated
couldn't
dog ties outside the post office.
but why couldn't Staples have a post office desk inside
True.
Staples?
True.
Okay. You could, they could have, you could mail packages there and, right. You can know, actually, can you go in and you can do FedEx at Staples.
Hmm.
But why couldn't Staples, stores like Staples double as a post office?
Yeah.
Anyway, just throw that out there. All right. Let's move on to heat-related deaths in Europe. So last week we talked about the UK where people are dying and only
Yeah.
20% of the homes have air conditioning and the government is limiting who can have air conditioning. Well, here's a little new news. Last week, France came out with a report. They estimated that in 1 week, you want to guess how many people died in France? They
Oh,
estimate
I'm going to say 20 people.
20,000 people
Oh my gosh.
in 1 week.
Why so many?
Well, from heat, you have old people, and again, 80% of the homes and apartments don't have air conditioning.
So does France have the same laws that the UK has with respect to having air conditioning?
I don't know if they have the laws, but people have never, sought the need
Yeah, I
for
mean,
it.
Europe in general, air conditioning is just not as popular as in
Right.
America.
Yeah. Well, anyway, France came out with a report said we estimate that 20,000 people died.
Wow.
I'm sorry, in extreme heat across, I'm sorry, it wasn't just France. France came out with the report, but it's 20,000 people across Europe. And that was just last month. And then the world, we all know the world, WHO, World Health Organization, that's part of
Mhm.
the United Nations, I guess.
Yeah.
They have, uh, the WHO, a very credible organization, have said that according to their data, over the last 4 years, 200,000 people have died of heat-related deaths in Europe over 4 years. That works out to 50,000 people per year. Now, let me put that in perspective. That is more people that die in all traffic accidents in this country every year. I think our traffic accident fatalities, both car to car and pedestrians hit by cars, is around 30,000 people. Can you imagine more people have dying from heat-related deaths than all the traffic
Yeah.
fatalities in the United States?
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So
I
shocking. And
did
so
hear an interesting thing on the news the other day. This happened in New Jersey. I don't know what town in New Jersey. Um, there's been so many cases of, you hear about dogs in cars dying and children in cars dying because parents or whoever forgets that they left their dog or their child in the car, which is a whole nother story. But an adult was died in their car, which I don't understand. I mean, if
I
you're if
don't.
you're sitting in your hot car, get out.
Yeah. And by the way, let me put this in perspective. I quoted this number last week. In the U.S., now the U.S. is bigger than France, bigger than UK. In the U.S., the number of people estimated to die of heat-related deaths, and this includes kids left in hot cars, is between 1,500 and 3,000. And here, Europe is losing 50,000 people a year. Same, Europe and the United States, Europe combined and the U.S. have about the same population. They have 50,000 people dying per year from heat-related deaths. The U.S. is 3,000, and that's on the high end. So just to put that in perspective, how much time we got?
You have 10 minutes.
Okay, real quick. Hopefully, if you needed an iPad, a new cell phone, or a laptop computer in the past 6 months, you've already bought it because you know how much you know what a RAM memory chip is, right?
Yep.
Do you know how much the price of a RAM memory chip has increased in just the past 12 months on a percentage basis? You
Well,
want to
yeah,
take
the rare earth elements that are in those have increased exponentially.
Well, you want to take a guess at how much the price of a RAM memory chip has increased in just the last 12 months?
Oh, I want
Think
to
it's
say threefold.
more than 50% or less than 50%?
Oh, more than 50%.
More than 100% or less than
I'm going to
100%?
say more than 100%.
What do you think the number is?
I'll say it increased by 100%.
How about 660%?
Yikes. Yeah.
600. That's why iPads, cell phones, and computers are seeing a rapid increase in price. I think last week, Apple came out and said they were bumping the cost of all those products, and their stock fell by 6% because of their price increase. Because investors believe that the fewer people are going to be, their people are going to make their old, kind of continue to use their old products longer
Yeah.
than shell out the money for the new products. All right.
Yeah, I'm an iPhone user. I'm still on an iPhone 12.
Okay.
I think they're up to 16 or 17 now.
17. Yeah, a friend of mine just bought a 17. All right, I got one more clip I want to play. This is Bill Maher. Now, we've talked about these Democrats, Socialist America. These are the candidates that won New York City. They won a couple in Denver. There are people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And here's Bill Maher predicting what's going to happen if they get enough DSA, Democrat, Socialist America people in Congress to ever make their agenda become a reality. And here we go. Hopefully this will play for me.
They are radicals about this concept, and radical economic policy is always ineluctably married to radical social policy. Their platform, for example, calls for completely open borders. Therefore, what Biden was doing, but more. These Democratic socialists at another of their conventions, they were told to make jazz hands instead of clapping, lest some delegates suffer sensory overload. Meanwhile, Venezuela traded capitalism for Hugo Chavez's socialism for the 21st century, which turned out to be like socialism in the last century or any century, a fucking mess. If you think
a fucking mess. By the way, speaking of a fucking mess, did you hear that Cuba suffered a countrywide blackout the other day?
No, I'm not surprised because their infrastructure hasn't been updated in decades, and they probably can't they can't have enough resources for this heat.
Yeah, and it was an all-day blackout, and it wasn't the first. It was like the third in the past 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So, and of course, and if you're living, and of course, if you have food in the refrigerator, it's all gone bad. It was a 24-hour blackout. All your food has gone bad. Everything, you can't pump gas. So if you had a car, you got a moped that needed gas, you didn't get gas. I mean, the island is just screeching to a halt. So yeah, Cuba is coming to Cuba is collapsing. It's a question of how long before the people take over. All right. How much time we got now?
They've made great strides in the last, how many years ago have they been free of, did the embargo end? But yeah, I mean, they've made considerable strides, but they still have a very long way to go.
They got a huge way to go. All right. How much time we got?
You have about 6-7 minutes.
All right, then I guess we got time to pay our intro to the taxpayer relief shot. And here's why we call them taxpayer relief shot. And let me give you the sheriff of Santa Rosa County, Florida, explaining why we call them taxpayer relief shots. Here we go.
If somebody's breaking in your house, you're more than welcome to shoot them in Santa Rosa County. We prefer that you do, actually. Hopefully, you'll save the taxpayers money.
And he says that because, as we've discussed here in the past, if the police arrest a thug and he gets a trial, he can't afford his own attorney, so he gets a court-appointed attorney, and there's a trial, and then you got the cost of the prosecutor and the assistant prosecutor and the judge and the jurors and the bailiff. So it's a $200,000 trial. And then if he gets convicted, it's, for 10 years, it's $100,000 a year to send the guy to jail for a decade. So it's $1 million. So the sheriff is saying, hey, if you shoot the bad guy, you'll probably save the taxpayers a lot of money. So here we go. And this was Walgreens, where a thug picked the wrong Walgreens. And again, I apologize for losing all my, but here we go.
Up first, the 12 News Night team is tracking breaking news. A wild and chaotic visit for customers inside a Northwest Valley Walgreens.
Phoenix police say someone inside the store pulled out a gun, shooting a man to death while he tried robbing the store near 35th Avenue and Union Hills.
Team 12 on the scene all night long. Monique Riego joins us with the breaking details. Monique?
Hey guys, well, as you just said, Phoenix police described what happened here at the Walgreens tonight as very chaotic and absolutely terrifying for the customers that were involved. Now, police say when this all went down, there were around 12 people inside the store when the suspect pulled out a handgun and started pointing it at people in the pharmacy area. Then at one point, police say the suspect jumped over the pharmacy counter into the employee area and demanded OxyContin, which is an opioid painkiller prone to addiction. Now, that's when investigators say another customer in the store who was armed shot the suspect, killing him. Now, police tried giving the man CPR, but say he died at the store. Just an absolutely terrifying chain of events for those who are inside and even outside of the Walgreens.
When they arrived, they had a group, about a dozen customers and employees, hiding inside the store, fleeing from the store. A bit of a chaotic scene for the officers upon their arrival.
So when I pulled up to go into the Walgreens parking lot, there was the pharmacist and 2 or 3 of the technicians.
Well, that's the aftermath. But again, the thug wound up DRT and probably saved the taxpayers $1 million because armed robbery is a class 1 felony. You probably would get 10 years.
Yep.
All right. By the way, breaking news in New York City. There's a 37-story office building that's on the verge of collapse, and they've had to evacuate. They were renovating the building, and not only did they have all the workers had to pull out, literally the building is starting to lean over. They've had to evacuate 8 other buildings adjacent to it.
So all the buildings in New York City are so close. Where in New York City was this happening?
32nd Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. It was the old Pfizer headquarters. 37-story office buildings, and there's some pictures. If you look, there's some pictures from inside the building where these vertical steel beams began to buckle, literally bend like straws. Wow. And that's when all the workers said, crap, we need to get out of here. And the fire department came in and said, yeah, this building, you got to vacate. And they evacuated the other 8 buildings on every side of it. So this building could collapse. It could have already collapsed, but it's
that's Midtown. That's
Midtown. Yeah. Midtown Manhattan, 32nd Street between 1st and 2nd Avenues. All right.
Yeah, and it was amazing. I saw the video of that BJ's, the ceiling collapse. It's amazing nobody was seriously hurt or killed.
Just no serious injuries. Nobody had to go to the hospital. All right.
Yeah, there was an older guy in the video wearing a black coat, and he had a shopping cart, and the display is pushing him. Boy, he did not let go of his shopping cart.
He didn't. All right.
I certainly hope he's all right.
I think everybody's okay. All right. Anything you want to add, Producer Susan, before we sign off?
Nope.
All right. Well, folks, I thank you for giving up 30 minutes out of your day to listen to me ramble on about the things I find of interest and importance. And I hope you found some of those topics to be as interesting and important as I did. And if so, hope you continue to listen in the weeks and months to come. If you want to see some of the materials and story links you heard me talk about today, there's 2 ways to get them. If you want to wait a couple of days, you'll be able to find them on the Jerzee Joe website at jerzeejoe.com, with Jersey being spelled J-E-R as in Robert, Z as in zebra, E-E. So it's jerzeejoe.com. However, if you want them quicker and all you have to do is email me with your comment, a question, or suggested show topic. And you can do that by sending me an email. It's simply joe@jerzeejoe.com. Just remember to spell Jersey with an R, a Z, and 2 E's. And with that, Producer Susan, if you've got nothing else to add, I will sign off and talk to you next week. You good?
All right, Jerzee Joe.
All right, talk to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.